So I wanted to go live. I know I don't do these a whole lot. I usually go on other people's shows, but I want to go live because there's so much that happened in Minneapolis last night. There's so much happening under Trump's watch right now. And I think it's just really important to get some of the facts out there. There's a lot of misinformation being pushed by DHS themselves. And I want to go over some of this stuff. This morning, Trump posted on Truth Social that if Tim Walz doesn't do the things that he wants, then he will institute the Insurrection Act. This is taking things up a notch. And the only reason Trump is doing this is because he's trying to escalate things further so that he can consolidate more power. Uh, the authoritarian playbook is so clear here. You blame a targeted group, you blame them for all of society's problems. Then you use state violence against them. You're seeing that with what happened with Renee Good. You're seeing it with the tactics that they're using. If you're standing on the sidewalk, you're a protester. They're shoving you to the ground. You're creating violence, which provokes more resistance, and you're seeing that. You're seeing more people going to Minneapolis to protest. You're seeing people speaking out. Uh, but then what happens is this is part of the authoritarian playbook. They weaponize that resistance in order to rationalize even more extreme abuses of power. And that's how the cycle works. That's how democracies collapse, is that authoritarians abuse this power. And this is how regimes like Nazi Germany happened, right? It's kind of the same playbook. Obviously, you can't compare the two, but it's the beginning stages of what we saw. So last night, there was another individual shot in the leg. There's reports that somebody else was also shot. I have some emails out to some officials I know in Minnesota trying to get more clarity on that. But the person that was shot was allegedly ran into his home. They came out and they were hitting a the ICE officers with a broom or a snow shovel. This is what DHS says, but there's no video of this. Others deny that this is what actually took place. Uh, the problem is we don't know who to trust. We cannot trust Department of Homeland Security. Remember, this is the same DHS that told us that Jonathan Ross got run over and that he had internal bleeding of the torso. Uh, there's no way he had internal bleeding of the torso unless what they're referring to is a bruise, right? Even if he did get hit by this car, which is debatable right now, the fact that he was released from the hospital the same day means that he didn't have actual bleeding of any internal organs in his torso. That would absolutely not be the case. I did a Substack. If you go to my page, Krassencast.com, you can see that I did a whole article about the timeline and how it doesn't make sense that Ross would have had internal bleeding of organs. This is why. The shooting happened at 9:37 a.m. Local time in Minneapolis. Uh, he then drove away. Now, whether he drove to the hospital or not, he seemed fine. If he drove to the hospital, that means he would have arrived at 10 a.m. Now, a little bit after 5 p.m., he then, he Kristi Noem then came out and said that he's been released from the hospital. The Washington Post has a story about this. And that would mean that it was only an 8 to 9 hour window that he could theoretically have been at the hospital. Internal bleeding of an organ requires you to spend 1 to 2 nights minimum to check to see if the bleeding has stopped. You get CT scans, you get MRIs, you get ultrasounds, you get all sorts of tests, right? Blood work done. There's no way that he had internal bleeding of organs. So they're lying to you right there. Right there, it's absolutely a lie. Just a second, sorry. So that's another thing, right? So I think that it's important that before you believe anything that DHS is putting out there, that you immediately do your own research, critically think, and wait for more information to come out. And in the case of Renee Good, that happened, right? DHS claimed that Ross got run over. The ICE agent got run over and had to shoot. But when you see the video that came out only not too long after the news broke, You saw, wait, he didn't get run over. I don't even know if he got hit. Maybe he got tapped at slow speeds because he's standing in front of the vehicle, but obviously he didn't get run over. He clearly walked away. He didn't seem injured at all. He wasn't holding himself. He was holding his smartphone the whole time he fired those 3 shots. 2 of the shots were fired after the vehicle was already past him. Maybe DHS is lying right there. So I I just can't stress enough. They are gonna lie about whatever, right? Especially if it has to do with immigrants, because they don't see those immigrants as having any rights. They can say, "Oh, this guy came after us with a shovel." They don't have body cams. For some reason, they're ignoring court orders who have body cams. So there's not even they don't even have evidence. They don't have to prove anything. They can just make stuff up. So when they're saying, "Oh, we shot this guy in the leg," because he came at us with a broom or a snow shovel? Maybe that's honest, but maybe not. How do we know? And that's the slippery slope of authoritarianism. We don't know what to trust now because they're abusing their power in such a way that nothing nothing is trustworthy. We don't know, right? So I think that it's going to be crucial leading into this weekend. Uh, I think the tensions are rising. Donald Trump is now saying that he will institute the Insurrection Act if things don't get fixed. Kristi Noem was just on CNN speaking, being interviewed, and she also said that it's well within Trump's power to invoke the Insurrection Act. Now, when they said, will the Insurrection Act make it better in Minnesota? Will there be less shootings? Will there be less crime? And she said, not until Tim Walz does something about it. What is he going to do about it? Do you want Tim Walz to, like, let help you guys attack Americans? I've seen countless videos of people standing on sidewalks merely protesting with ICE around, maybe cursing them out, which is totally legal. Those people get shoved to the ground. That's illegal. That's excessive force. If these people get sued, there's gonna be lawsuits, and they're gonna lose if the individuals can actually figure out who these individuals are, right? They're masked up. So I think a couple things. Uh, don't be violent, right? Like there's a tendency for people to lash out at violence with violence, and I don't exactly blame you for reacting that way. But if you're violent, that's exactly what they want. They want you to be violent. They want you to push back so that they can then escalate things further. And the more they escalate things, the more power Trump can grab. Trump is trying to grab power. And he's trying to grab power. This is all a test bed, right? What's happening in Minneapolis, what happened in LA, what happened, in Chicago, they're all test beds for November. In November, when the elections start, when we have the elections, we're going to have people going out to vote, many people of color who aren't illegal, but since DHS is locking people up who aren't illegal and arresting them and being combative, those people are going to be like, I don't know if I want to risk going out to the polls if there's ice all around. That's their play. If they can cut down voting by 3%, 2%, that could be enough to swing multiple House seats, the Senate. So as you sit here and as you digest what's happening now, remember that this is just, as Colleen just said, that it's a training ground. They're getting ready. And I know it might sound like this is a conspiracy theory, but we've been warning you. This is, if you read Project 2025, this is like what it says. This is what it says is going to happen. And clearly they are all about Project 2025. So that's the other thing I want to say. Another story that I saw is a African American family was driving through an ice area, and they they put their windows up. Obviously, their windows were up because of cold. And ICE fired tear gas and a smoke grenade into their vehicle. The family had a 6-month-old baby, and the baby stopped breathing. So the father ran out of the car. The baby's okay now, but this is another instance of an American, brown skin American, getting targeted by ICE. ICE has no say in traffic violations. They have no say in traffic stops. When 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 Renee Good was pulling out or blocking traffic, that's a job for police. That's not a job for ICE. Their role is not to, police traffic. They're not traffic cops. Um, I see Natalie said if Walsh call the Minnesota NG, where would we even be? And calling in National Guard would be even more of a mess. Yeah, I mean, there is calls from Democrats to use the Minnesota National Guard against ICE, and that would be a whole other situation. That would almost certainly lead to the Insurrection Act. I don't know if it's good or bad. I'd imagine it would be a bad thing just because it makes things spiral even more out of control. It creates more chaos. And what does Trump want? He wants chaos. The more chaos, the better, because the more videos of, protesters throwing stuff at cops or at ICE agents, more protesters, being violent towards ICE agents, the more he can say, oh, we need to invoke the Insurrection Act. And then that leads to them invoking it in other major cities. And then that leads to Trump being able to control military police in the United States leading up to the midterms. And then we have 2028. We have another 2 years, and the same thing can happen again. I think that the best advice I can give anybody, and I'm going to Minneapolis tomorrow night for a few nights. It's more with my family, but I will be meeting with some people. The best advice that I can give is stay peaceful, stay loud, use your whistles, curse at them all you want. Don't hit, don't break things, don't riot. Right? That's the best way for Trump to, create a narrative that he needs more people on the ground. You want you want us to be able to create a narrative showing videos of ICE being violent towards peaceful protesters. If we can do that, then Trump's approval for what he's doing on immigration will continue to fall. It's falling significantly. That's why I highly doubt that the Insurrection Act will be invoked. Although I think that he's doing a lot of this to distract from, the Epstein files, from his poor economy and affordability issues. So I think if things get bad, Trump takes things more to an extreme. Uh, I, I think that's really all I have to say today. I'm going to try doing these more often. I'll have Ed come on too. If you're not following on this platform, please do so. Uh, I don't request anybody pay to subscribe. It's kind of like a tip. If you pay to subscribe, it's like you're tipping us. All the content we put out is free. Uh, I'm not really in this for the money. I'm in it because I want to get the truth out there. Uh, I have 2 young kids. I don't want them growing up in this America, right? Like I've honestly, if it wasn't for me, our family would have probably moved to another country by now if it was up to my wife. But I still have hope. I still think that we can come back from this. I think that we can, you know, push back. The elections are only 11 months away, less than 11 months away. And if Democrats can win, that's going to be a step in the right direction and a step towards 2028 when we can actually make real change. So, like I said, no violence. Keep fighting. And when I say fighting, I don't mean violently. I know people on Twitter like to misconstrue what I say. I want you to do what's legal. I want you to, you know, protest peacefully. The more people that protest, the better, because it normalizes the fact that this is not normal. It shows the rest of the people who are protesting, the people in throughout all of America, that this isn't a normal thing. The more people they see on the streets, the more people they see pushing back against ICE, the more it's going to get through their head. Okay, well, like I kind of see why ICE needs to deport certain people, but this is not normal. This isn't how it was supposed to be, right? So I think that's my advice. I'll try and do these again. I might do one live from Minneapolis this weekend. I'm also gonna start doing these when I get back more often with Ed. Ed's a little bit busy right now, but like I said, give me a follow if you like what you're hearing, or subscribe, I guess it's called. And follow us on Twitter if you're on there. I know it's accessible. Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Just search for Krassenstein. You'll see us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining, and have a great day.